Hi, Dr. Pat Deegan. I was so glad to hear about you and saw how you're able to overcome schizophrenia and get your PhD. I was wondering, were you symptom-free during your educational journey? Did you have challenges? And how did you deal with challenges? And did you ever get accommodations or help from the professor?
Yes, these are great questions. I definitely was struggling with an awful lot of symptoms, and in my undergraduate studies, those first years, I just started with one course at a time, and because I had to, other kids were just going in and being challenged by the material, but I was, if I could get to the material, I considered it a good day. For me, it was, can I sit through a class without freaking out? If I'm feeling like everyone in the class is looking at me and feeling like they're having some kind of thoughts about me. I was very paranoid at the time and really struggling with the intense fears. And so, I kind of, at first I was just terrified to tell anybody because I knew that they would kick me out of school. And this is just as a freshman. And then I just so I kept it to myself, but I did things like that were at the time I thought a good idea, which was like bringing a tape recorder to class, and because I was working on can I sit through the classroom without freaking out. And then when I felt in a better space, maybe later that day or back at my apartment or something, then I would listen to the lecture on the tape. So I used all kinds of strategies like that, and slowly, to me, it was like having to, like a weightlifter who builds up their muscles. I had to build up the skills and strengthen the skills that are required to sit in a classroom and to deal with the paranoid thoughts I was having, to deal with the distressing voices I was having, the anxiety. And then, as I got better at those skills, I started having some success. I started getting some A's in my classes and doing well. And I did go back to the hospital many times. I've had 9 different hospitalizations. My last hospitalization was in 1994, so that's 12 years ago now. So I've been out of the hospital 12 years. And some people are surprised by that because they think that I'm talking about something that's ancient history, And 12 years ago is a good long time ago, but at the same time, I think what happens as I've grown up is to, instead of saying, I guess I've just more or less learned to accept myself. I hear voices, there's just no way around it. I get hyper-reactive sometimes to the stimulus. I can't take big crowds of people, or I get explosively angry. I have unresolved trauma issues. I've been through a bazillion years of therapy. I've come to the conclusion that it's just me. It's not schizophrenia. It's not a symptom. This is how God made me. What can I say, It's just how I am. And at some point I just embraced it. And I stopped trying to change myself and said, you know what? I'm queer. I am, a lesbian who's been with my partner, and we're now officially married in Massachusetts since we've been together since 1986. That's 20 years. We have a beautiful daughter who's 9 years old. We live in an old farmhouse. She's a psych survivor. I'm a psych survivor. What I thought I thought that getting well meant kind of having no more big vulnerabilities and stuff. And I think what finally happened was I saw through the veil of normalcy and realized that everybody struggles. Everybody has a really hard time. Everybody experiences days when they'd rather be dead. Everybody, and that life is hard. It's not, nirvana. It's hard. And at some point I just embraced myself and, I said, what you see is what you get. This is me. And I quit trying to make it all better. I said, I still suffer with these feelings of trauma from the past, and I have these flashbacks, but you know what? So what? It's just me. And I guess when you know how to deal with it. When stuff would come up in the past, it would throw me off, and I'd go back to the hospital and try to get a new medication or this treatment or that treatment. And now it's like, well, I know how to handle it more or less, but I'm not going to be able to make it go away, and why even try? It's just me. And, I think what happens is I say, I have these trauma issues or something, and I want to heal from them as if perfect healing were a possibility. And what I found was if somehow I could magically take away my trauma history, I would lose a deep amount of my compassion. That my trauma history has allowed me open and compassionate ways to other people, so that what was a wound, what was a problem, I now recognize maybe a sort of a gift, that it brings me compassion for the world and for other people, and that's a good thing. Not that I'd wish it on anybody, but at the same time, it's who I am, and it sensitizes me, and that's important. So school, you know, for all those years, I was scared to tell anybody, scared to tell my teachers. Some very trusted teachers I did tell. But I'll tell you, once I got to graduate school, now the stakes were even higher on my master's and my doctorate. I wasn't telling those people because I was terrified. I saw one of my classmates in my master's year. There were 40 kids in my class, you know. One of them had a wicked bad psychotic break. He was running around with all this aluminum foil all over him to ward off space rays and everything. I felt bad. He ended up getting thrown out of school. And, you know, that scared me. That put me even further in the closet. Because I thought recovery meant getting normal. I thought I had to put my psych history behind me and say, I'm done with that. Now I'm whole. Now I can go be a professional. And then I start meeting all these people that are professionals, you know, and they don't know I'm a mental patient, right? They don't know about my history. And I'm thinking, they're whacked. You know, they're all in therapy, they're all getting divorced, they're all messed up, they can't figure out their gender, you know, they can't figure out their sexual orientation, they can't figure out, they got a drug and alcohol thing going, this one's a drunk. I'm like, they're whacked. And I realized having a degree doesn't make you whole. You know, to me a degree, the PhD has been a key that unlocks some important doors, gets me to some tables that if I didn't have it, I probably wouldn't get there. Into things like, to be concrete, publishing in certain journals and, you know, under my own name and not needing an MD to publish with me, but being able to publish get myself published, being able to conduct certain types of research, attract certain kinds of grant money, like from the National Institute of Mental Health or whatever. You kind of need degrees to do that. So the key to having a degree, in my mind, if I only use it for myself, it's no good. It's just selfish. For me, I use my degree to bring others and open doors for others too. And accommodations, always I found friends that I could share with. Eventually, I found the consumer movement, the peer movement, and that saved my ass. That saved my life. Because then I could be all of who I was. The hardest thing, going back onto units as a clinical psychologist and having to do rotations at the state hospital or the emergency room and seeing things done that were done to me like restraints and not wanting to be a part of that, but they expected me to be a part of that. And it was like I just had to beg off those days and not participate, you know. But those are just some of my thoughts right now.
How do you keep on going without quitting? It's so stressful at school.
I needed to do it. I felt like I had this goal, this thing I needed to do. And the thing I needed to do is what you saw me doing today, which is developing materials for my people, of which I'm a part, you know, for psych survivors. That this is, I feel like this is what my God has asked me to do with my life. And every day I say yes to it. And it's what keeps me going. So it wasn't so much that I wanted a degree as I knew the degree would get me where I needed to be to do the work I felt called to do. So for me it was finding what it was that my higher power wanted me to do in my life and then saying yes to it and doing it.
So you still kept going even if you had trouble with your classes and things like that?
Hey, I had a hospitalization smack dab in the middle of my first year of doctoral studies. You know, and the hospital, that's tricky because I was doing my graduate studies in Pittsburgh and I went to the hospital at the University of Pittsburgh. It was awful, you know, but I did it, you know. And I tried to make sure my teachers didn't find out and stuff, you know. You know, you just keep going. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beth Deegan.
You're welcome.